So 2.3 acres, 7,000 square feet. So now we are working with our architect in building our 16 units memory home facility. So it's almost done. We're going to
Wow.
submit it pretty soon, hopefully by end of this month, to our lenders and get the funding
Awesome. On the same lot right next door.
on the same lot. So actually the architect have it set where I can build 16 unit facility in that lot.
On how many acres?
2.3.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's a lot of stuff on 2.3 acres. That's awesome. More power to you. Welcome to the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlow. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
Welcome back to today's episode of the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cameron, and today we're thrilled to have Rowena Arnott as our guest joining us today. How are you, Rowena?
Hi. Good morning. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rowena Arnott. I currently live in Billings, Montana. I own a home care service agency for about 3 years now. And I have almost a year old assisted living facility, which is an 8-bed here in Montana. And my profession before owning a business was a registered nurse. I used to live in California and moved to Montana 3 years ago. It's been a great move for us and grateful for what we have going here.
That's awesome. Thank you for that background. That's exactly what I was going to ask. So you got it going already, and your background is different than most of our guests. Most of our guests are operating multiple assisted living homes. A lot of them were nurses beforehand or physicians, but you actually had an intermediate step in the middle, which is starting an in-home care agency. So let's walk back to, okay, you're a nurse, you moved to Billings, Montana. How did you go from W-2 employee to starting a home care agency?
So my husband, this is all his idea, is to start our own business and then, I don't know, invest our money somewhere else and not to be working on the long hour shifts. So fast forward, we tried to buy a couple of businesses here in Montana. I think we tried to buy B2B printing. That fell through. We tried to buy windows, doors installation. That fell through. And the third one would be the home care anyway, my husband doesn't know anything about healthcare. And so when we saw this come up, we said we could try it and see what would happen. I know that I'm a nurse, so it would make it easy for the both of us having me and my background as a nurse.
And what was his background?
He's an electrical engineering guy.
Okay.
Works in the refinery, working 12-hour shifts, day and night shifts. He flip-flops, and so it was a lot on his body. And I work as a nurse night shift in a hospital in Torrance.
Yeah, that sounds tough. A lot of conflicting schedules, long hours. And so did you purchase an in-home care agency? Did you start one? What did that look like?
So this was an established franchise. It's called Right at Home. So they're everywhere, all over. So it was already established. They opened it up from 2016 and it was for sale in 2021. So it had like 15, I think they had like 13 caregivers, and their clients, I think in their 20s. So right now our caregivers are up to in the 40s now, going on 50s.
Wow.
And our clients have tripled pretty much. So how we got started with assisted living is a year after our home care was running, our accountant recommended to invest into real estate. just to diversify our portfolio. So we try to get into duplexes and backed out because I don't know, it's kind of scary to rent to someone, and we're not those real. And so 2 deals we backed out on, and then 2 weeks later our realtor told us about this property, which is an existing facility but being used as a foster home. So they
Okay.
had 4 residents. Here in Montana, if you do the foster home, you can only have 4
Mm.
in a home. But this property was used to be an assisted living, which had 17 rooms, 7,000 square feet. And so we put an offer and it got accepted. So we said, maybe we're meant to do this again, just really serving our senior.
So now it's an 8-bed senior assisted living facility?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Uh,
why, if it has 17 bedrooms, why is it only 8-bed?
so my husband don't, because it's a basement. So
Oh,
8 on top, and then I
okay.
think 7 on the bottom. So he said it's a lot of liability having
Mhm.
to put somebody on the basement, and so he didn't want to do that.
Do you have anybody in there? Could you lease rooms out to caregivers or to others?
So no, right now we're using it for our home care agency office.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So the business is renting to us.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's a great use of space. I love that. And
yeah.
I want to back up for just a minute because I started in real estate and then transitioned to assisted living because I kind of knew about it. Well, I learned about a lot of the benefits. I didn't know about them from the start. I learned about them in my late 20s and went, oh, wow, real estate's really great from a tax perspective. A lot of folks don't know about these advantages. So, if you start making some money, especially from a business, a lot of CPAs, the smart ones, are going to come and tell you, hey, you need
Yep.
to buy real estate because you want to be able to have some losses that offset a good cash flowing business or even a W-2 income if your income isn't above a certain threshold. So a lot of folks don't realize some of the benefits of real estate that may not come from the stock market, such as book losses. So the best way to explain this is, hey, the government lets you write off the entire structure when you buy real estate, not the land, but the structure. So if the structure is worth $500,000, the government's going to let you write off that entire $500,000 either linearly if you don't do a cost segregation study, or if you do a cost segregation study, you'll be able to take all of that, a lot of that up front, which means on your K1, on your statements for taxes, it's going to show a loss when actually you took money home potentially.
Yeah.
So that loss can count against other businesses or other real estate. Kind of depends on your total financial situation, how that shakes out. But I know we, for one, have done a lot of cost segregation studies, and that's allowed us to accelerate growth by paying a lot fewer taxes, especially if you count as a real estate professional. So for those listening, surely go on our Facebook group and ask more questions if you have questions about that. That's something that, like, I don't enjoy doing taxes, but I really, really like saving money. So you have to get smart on these things, especially as a business owner like yourself.
Right. And so this property is really great because it's sitting in a 2.3 acres. It's a commercial. Oh, actually it's a mixed use. So 2.3 acres, 7,000 square feet. So now we are working with our architect in building our 16 units memory home facility. So it's almost done. We're going to
Wow.
submit it pretty soon, hopefully by end of this month, to our lenders and get the funding
Awesome. On the same lot right next door.
on the same lot. So actually the architect have it set where I can build 3 unit facility in that lot.
On how many acres?
2.3.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's a lot of stuff on 2.3 acres. That's
Yeah.
awesome. More power to you.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll see. Let's start with one first.
yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So you mentioned something before we got on the podcast that I want to bring up, which is the home care agency is harder than the assisted living home. Can you kind of explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So with the home care, I mean, you have to serve, how many clients, 50, 60 clients. On top of that, your caregivers. So I think the issues we're having is finding good caregivers that are reliable, which we do have them, but sometimes you get the bad apples. But it's just a lot of stress, because if one caregiver calls in, then you have to find replacement, which if that caregiver has 3 or 4 or 5 clients, then you have to make the calls and let them know you're getting a different caregivers, or you don't have a caregiver today. Compared to the assisted live, I have for the 8 residents, I have 2 caregivers during the day and then one at night.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and they're on a set schedule, and it's
7 to 7.
yeah.
And so far so good. They uh, I don't like caregivers sleeping at night to make so I've let go a couple of them because
Mhm.
they sleep, and
Yeah, they need to be awake. Yep.
yeah. So anyway, so home care is a lot of stress for us. My husband and I have a plan so that when our 16 units opens up, we're gonna probably sell our home care.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. One of the advantages that we think of having a home care agency as well as assisted living in the same area is being able to, cross staff. Like, let's say one of your
Yes.
caregivers at the home calls in sick, you could pull one from your agency that may not have had a shift that day. Is that something you've been able to take advantage of? Is that even a good benefit, or does it not really work like that?
Yes, you know what? So okay, so having a home care agency in the facility is good, because so let's say you don't have enough hours for your caregiver, because with the home care it's kind of you never know when you're going to get your clients. And so other caregivers have already established schedule, so when you hire somebody for full time, they're working on getting their clients established, their hours established. And so by having an assisted living facility, we're able to use that caregiver to give them hours. At the same time, like while hiring for the home care, I also hire for the facility in case, like, hey, are you able to work night shift? In case I need somebody up there, can you help? So, I mean, it's easy. I mean, I like for this Saturday, my caregiver for my night shift requested an off. And so I already have people lined up to work. So, yeah, I mean, it makes it easier having a
Mm.
home care.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, when they call in, it's the issue. When they're out in the field, then
Yeah.
it's a lot more stressful that way.
The thing that makes me the most nervous about an in-home care agency, because as I mentioned, we've been looking at, hey, what as additional businesses can we buy that align well with assisted living homes in the same areas? In-home care just pops up first. And I've looked at a lot of the data, and it doesn't look as good on paper when you look at like the big reports as in-home care agencies and the profit margins and difficulty with staffing and difficulty with finding enough staff. There's just not enough caregivers out there, period. It seems like getting caregivers enough hours to be trained.
Mhm.
So in your experience, what is the toughest part? Okay. The thing that makes me the most nervous is a caregiver calling in sick and now you don't have shifts covered. In your experience, how much does that come up, and what are some ways you've been able to overcome that?
So okay, so we have hired somebody, a caregiver before, that will be the on-call person. So that's a way you can solve this. Is It's
How
been
do
working actually. We did
do you
have
pay
a
them? Like, are they being paid to be on call, or how does that
Yes.
work?
So what we do is, hey, you'll be our on call. We'll pay you full-time hours, 40 hours, and just be ready to be, on the go when we need you.
Mhm.
So last week, my on-call person worked about 20 hours, but she's getting paid 40 hours.
Oh, I
And
see. Yeah.
yeah, so we like it that way. And I mean, we did have one before, but she got burnt out because she's getting calls all over all the time. Then she quit, and then we have a new one again. So hopefully this will be a good one.
Sorry to interrupt this episode, but if you're listening to this, then you're already an action taker. And that means you are exactly who we built the Row Room Assisted Living Mastermind for. If you're ready to unlock financial freedom by launching your own residential assisted living home, our community of like-minded entrepreneurs and industry experts will give you the exact steps to make that happen. From licensing to acquiring a home to funding your home to scaling to dozens of homes, we've got you covered. We don't just offer guidance, we provide you with the roadmap, the resources, and the launch pad for your success. And the best part? The investment in yourself today will pay you back many times over, giving you freedom, fulfillment, and financial success in the most incredibly rewarding opportunity in real estate. Ready to dive in? Check out therowroom.com and join us today. That's the RALroom.com. Hope to see you soon. Now back to the episode.
But
yeah,
so far she likes it.
That's interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about your hiring process and where and how you go about finding caregivers?
So since it's a franchise, there's like this third party, like we have Employ, we have Indeed, and then so we also have a third party that will be scheduling the interviews. And so before, when we started, we didn't have all this, third party that's calling to schedule the interview. It's like an automatic text, schedule your interview now, blah, blah, blah. We had trouble finding people to get to the door. They won't answer their calls. So it was tough in the first year and a half. But we invested into this third party where they could text them and set up the interview automatically. So it's been great addition.
Is that part of the franchise or is that a different service?
It's a different service. So yeah. So if we franchises is, you have to pay the fees, royalty, and then you have the brand fund, and then, it's a lot more expenses too, having a home care.
Yeah. It seems like the profit margin is tough and caregivers. It really comes down to staffing, which I think is what makes us nervous about operating our own home care agency.
Yeah. So the gross, it's really good, but for all the amount of stress, I don't know if it's worth it. I like the facility better because you don't have a lot of turnaround with the, caregivers. I mean, we treat our caregivers really well, and that's why we're able to increase the amount of caregivers we have now compared to when we bought it. They only had 13 caregivers, so we're maybe close to 50 now.
Wow, that's great growth.
We offered health insurance, 401k, the PTO, everything.
Wow.
And then, we pay them well, of course. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you for indulging my questions about an in-home care agency. That's very, very interesting that you had that kind of leapfrog into an assisted living home. And now, congratulations on the 16-bed memory care. That's very exciting. So it sounds like you're going to be in the permitting stage and building stage pretty soon, right?
Yeah. So hopefully break ground in May.
Awesome. Okay. So one of the biggest challenges that a lot of folks have when getting started on their first assisted living home is financing it. So can you talk about how you financed that home?
Okay. So how we did was, when we live in California, of course, when we sold our house, we got some good equity there. And that's why we were able to buy the home care agency. And then we still have some leftovers plus, whatever we made from our home care. And so that's how we were able to purchase the property. Now, my husband used his 401k, they called ROBS, ROBS. Have you heard about that? It's rollover something. I can't remember.
Pulling money out for real estate from your.
Yeah. So we use that to do some renovations and stuff like that. Okay.
What has been your biggest key to success for keeping the home fully occupied and getting it occupied and then keeping it fully occupied?
So, So what I do is, if I have a bed that's empty, I usually reach out to, other owners in the area. They're a good resource. They're a
Other assisted living
competition,
owners?
but then at the same time, I don't treat them as a competition because we are all here to serve our seniors. So I reach out to them, letting them know I have a bed available. I call the hospital. Sometimes I visit them. I just make phone calls and texts. Hospice, I take hospice residents, do a lot of marketing. I don't, the good thing about having a home care agency also is there's a continuity of care. So when a client from their home starts to kind of needing more assistance, and then that's when I introduce, hey, would you like to move to our facility? And so I've had about 3 of them that have moved into my facility.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, just letting people know,
Yeah.
and, having a good reputation, having your residents well cared for, the family sees it. And so
Mhm.
they refer you. Billings is very small town. And so people talk about each other. And so I always, hear, you know, good things when you actually take care of your residents well. So
Yeah. 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 You do the number one thing right, and everybody will talk about it. Not
yeah,
just the families, but also the staff, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I think it's cool something you said that I've not heard on the podcast before, which is you call up the other assisted living homes and say, "Hey, I have some vacancies." That's brilliant because there's more business to go around than there are beds and homes, right?
right,
There's way more demand than there is supply. So why not, right? Call another home. Hey, yes, we have someone. We can't put them in the home. We're totally full. Here you go. And it's kind of like a return the favor thing, right? I'm sure if you had a wait list and another home called and said, hey, we have a vacancy, that you would refer back. I think that's
right,
beautiful because it saves in placement fees, right? Doing it
yeah.
that way versus always going to a placement agent. Do you leverage placement agents at all?
I do. I'm okay with it, but I don't need it because I have
Mhm.
private. Most of my residents are private. I have a
Mhm.
couple Medicaid, but you choose who you want to take in. But if I'm not picky, I mean, it's always going to be full because there's just a lot of
Yeah.
residents, a lot of seniors that are needing home.
Now you said if you're not picky.
Yeah, if you're
So
not picky.
yeah.
you
Now,
know,
I assume you do have some criteria, and what does that look like for you and your home?
so depends, the level of care, are there any family involved? And, of course, finance, you need that money to keep going. And so and depends also, like, if the residents don't have any power of attorney person, it's going to
Mm.
be hard. They're, what is it called, past medical history, the level of care. I think I pretty much look at how much care do they need. I do have 2 caregivers during the day, but at the same time, you gotta be picky a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's talk.
because Mhm.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
because I don't know, it's just better for everybody, to make sure
Yeah.
that the client that you're taking in is not, it matches with the other residents.
Yeah. I've heard horror
So
stories of owners, that aren't doing memory care specifically, the family not being totally forthcoming about a resident, placing the resident without doing any sort of screening, and then learning that, oh, they really do have dementia really bad, and it's we're not designed for that, right? We're not even potentially certified for it because usually that's an extra level. And yeah, you could end up in kind of a tough spot where you'd have to then turn that family and that resident away, which would be much worse than just saying no from the beginning, right?
yeah, so I've had that. I'm not perfect, so nobody's perfect. So I've taken clients that you don't get to know them until about 2 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Once after you take them in, you just, there's a honeymoon phase. So everything is good. They seem easy, and then like 2 weeks after that, you see the real the real them. Also, when you get residents from hospital or some other facilities, they don't always tell you the the truth.
Mm,
So yeah, I did get one from a placement agency, which had advanced, dementia. And she came from another facility over here and said, oh, yeah, she's good, blah, blah, blah. But after about 2 weeks, I mean, she really needs a lockdown facility. So I had to transfer her out.
wow.
Yeah. And
What
it's
happened
not
with the
not fun for
placement?
the family, and it's just not,
No, of course not.
the placement agency should have been forthcoming about, what she really needs, so it could have avoided the transfer here, moving from
Yeah.
places to places.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. What ended up happening with the placement agency? Did you have to pay a fee or what?
So what she does is, so her deal is she gets the first month,
That's what
and
most of them do.
then yeah, she gets the first month. And then, so what happened was, after about 2 weeks, I already have warned the family and her that, like, she doesn't fit here. I didn't have to pay her because it was not a good
Okay. I'm glad to hear
move.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So something that you said earlier, which I think is super important, and a lot of people aren't thinking about this in the care industry because they're thinking about care and it's all about taking care of people, which I totally understand. But you also have to be profitable in order to take good care of people. Because if you're negative, the tendency is to cut corners and then things go downhill really quickly. If you can't pay your staff, you're in trouble. So you talked about screening financially. And we do this with tenants for long-term rentals. And, a lot of people aren't thinking about that when it comes to placing residents. So can you talk about, what are some of the things you look at when you do a financial screening for that resident and
So
the family?
yeah, so here, I just honestly, I mean, I don't look at their bank statements. I don't. I'm just hoping to God that they will be able to, you know, pay. And so far, God is good. I haven't had any issues with that. And so just and a lot of times, I don't know, it's got to be from your heart, with everything that you do. If it comes from your heart, I mean, everything is going to be fine. So I just, but I did have one situation where this resident came from a nursing home, which is 4 hours away from me. They told me that he has a private fund, and that, he's got some assets. And so I took their word for it. So I took in the resident, and come to find out, he owes 80,000 from that nursing home.
Oh,
And he refused to use his 401k to pay for his stay in that nursing home, because to be eligible for Medicaid, you have to have an asset of $2,000 or less, or something like that. But he did have some money, which is not very much, but enough to stay for about 7 months or something. But with that, they're not going to approve you for Medicaid. So he
mhm.
was refusing to pay the nursing home with his 401k. And so they transferred him out, and they didn't tell me all of this. And he
Yeah.
didn't have any power of attorney. It was a mess.
Sounds like it.
And so they told me that I should start screening for it. I just don't know. I just can't do it. I don't know. I mean, I just pray to God that, um we're here to care for our seniors. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, it's everything's going to work out fine, just
Yeah, it is a good question of if you have screening criteria, what should they be? And I know in every single state, there's specific criteria in terms of tenants, for leasing a place, and they're very strict on what you can or can't use in terms of screening criteria due to like fair housing and things like that. So that is a curious question that we'll have to look at answering as to what's the best way to screen.
Yeah, because
financially.
they could show that they have this money, and then, a week later, the family withdraws the money,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's,
100%. Yep.
yeah, I don't
Um,
know. I'm just, I really just pray to God that everything is going to be fine. And it is. It always is, So,
yeah. Okay. So I got a couple more questions for you. One is, if you were to start over on the assisted living home or even the care agency, whichever one you want to answer, what would you do differently? What advice would you give to someone just starting?
um, what would I do differently? I don't know that I have anything I would do differently because it's different every day. You have different residents, different clients, different situation. Just know that, before you get into assisted living business, do your homework, do the math, just do it. Do it. Don't overthink it. And let's see. Yeah, I didn't know anything about business. Okay. So, but all I know is that, as a nurse, it's going to be fine, and what is it called? I called different owners when I started. I don't know anything how to run the business. I don't know policy and procedure. Where am I going to get these things? And so I reach out to people. You can't be timid, and, just reach out, ask questions. And thank God, God showed me, one of the owner who owns four facilities in the area, and just like, you can have my policy and procedure, So he helps me. Like, if I have a question, I call him. If I have any situation that I don't know what to do,
That's awesome.
I call him, and just for free. So I don't know. So just ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't be shy. You can't be timid. And, you know, we see the same thing with people who need to raise money, which is most people to get started on this. And they're like, yeah, I just don't want to put it on Facebook that I need money for a deal or an opportunity to get started. I'm like, but why? Why not just talk about it and don't be shy? This is more
Don't
of
be
just
shy.
like putting it out there. Put yourself out there, because you'll be surprised how many people would be interested in partnering with you and investing in you and your future. It's shocking.
Right.
I'll make
Right.
one Facebook post and a bunch of people that haven't talked to me in 5 years reach out and go, wow, that's interesting. I'd love to be involved. I'm like, wow. Like, if I hadn't put that post, I wouldn't have gotten those opportunities. So
Right.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
100%
if I
right.
did make those calls, I would not have, my mentor. So, and buying this property, we don't know. I'm like, I don't know. So now what? It's like, well, now what? But, you do your research, you do what the rules and regulations, you read about it and reach out to people. And
Yeah,
there's gotta be there's solution to everything.
100%. Okay, so Cup, just like two more questions here. In terms of the industry, the residential assisted living industry, where it is and where it's evolving, what are some of the biggest trends you're seeing in residential assisted living?
I To me, I think it's going to continue. I mean, of the silver tsunami coming, right? But I know that memory care is going to be a hit for
Yeah.
sure, because right now, I mean, my residents, there's more of like the memory issues right now, and the memory care here in the area are full, and they would call me and say, we have a couple room, whatever, studio, and then like a few days later they're full again. And so I think that's where it's going to be. It's the memory here. We need more memory here.
Yeah.
um so
Yeah, there's incredible data out there. I'm going to read this to you. I pulled it up. The number of adults age 40 and over living with dementia worldwide is expected to triple from 57 million in 2019 to 153 million in 2050,
wow.
which is insane. And it's
Right.
not just a factor of, hey, yes, the populations are aging and the boomer generation, but also a factor of just the propensity is continuing to increase. So you're absolutely right. Memory care is it's hugely needed now, and it's only going to get much, much worse in terms of demand in the future.
Right. So my architect, we originally was just going to build like a regular assisted living, and I'm like listening to Brett, yeah, Shatkovy, and
Hmm.
all,
Yeah, great guy.
yeah, and then from the area with the memory care being full, I told my architect to just like make it memory care ready in case we get into that. It's
Hmm.
already, it's already good to go.
Totally
So
agree. We tell all of our RAL members to design and design for and plan for memory care,
yeah,
but underwrite for assisted living. So make
right.
sure it works at a lower level
It
of
does.
acuity, but design it for the higher level.
Yeah, we
Then
have
then
it.
you open yourself up to that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's sad too because a lot of family, they can't really, what is it called, properly care. They don't know, and then and so us, helping them out, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Okay. So for anyone who is on the fence about getting into residential assisted living, is there anything you would say to them?
Do it. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was getting into, but somehow I found my way, and you learn along the way. So I learn every day. There's issues that come up, but you have all this resources. And so just do it. Don't be scared.
Yeah.
It'll be good because then, you'll do something that is serving people, and it's
Yeah.
rewarding, and, you know,
It's rewarding. It's impactful. It's a way you can take charge of your future and build
make a
financial
difference. Yeah.
independence, right? Be your own boss, even
Yep.
from one home, which is insane. And and the thing that I think is just so cool is that the demand is going to continue to increase way faster than the supply. So literally all of us could go open 10 bed homes in the next 5 years, and it wouldn't even make a dent into what's needed. So like there's just so much like abundance to go around where we can all win at the same time, which is awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, here in Billings, I mean, I don't know, we have 120,000 population just here in Billings. I mean, the facilities are full. So imagine we're not that big, but we're full.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So, Rowena, this has been absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed you sharing all of your experiences, including the home healthcare agency. I think that's really cool and a really different transition into assisted living. So, how can our listeners reach out to you and learn more from you?
So you can email me at rowena@billingshomecare.com. I also have Facebook for our facility. It's called Right Heart Assisted Living. So our home care is right at home. And so we named our facility Right Heart Assisted Living because you
Oh,
have to have the heart to do this.
that's awesome.
So there you go.
Love it. Love it. Well, Rowena, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights. It's been a pleasure, and hope to have you on after you build your 16 bed.
Yes. Thank you. God willing. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you for tuning in to the Raw Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is TheRAL room.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks.
And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey.
Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room Podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.